This is a Power 98.7 podcast. Now we're talking. Subscribe to Power 98.7 podcasts in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. There's more on power987.co.za.
Soweto Highway. Now, we are going to do something a bit different because next week, from the 8th to the 12th of June, there is going to be something happening at the Joburg Theatre. This is very important because theatres for the past 12 months have become empty shells of absolutely nothing happening. So the fact that something's happening at the Joburg Theatre is as important as the fact that the person who will be running that particular show next week now joins us in studio to talk us through what's happening next week. Billy Monama is a guitarist who is now in studio. Good evening, Billy.
So what would you...
I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
Before we get to the question of what happens next week, tell us who on earth Billy Monama is.
I will try to put it, in summary. I'm a guitarist and a composer and arranger, and also I do like film scoring, and quite a number of things I do. I do also conduct like workshops. I'm an unpublished author for now until September.
Well, and then.
Writing a tutorial book is not easy because there's so much clearance you need to clear. You need to clear the photography was there. You need to clear the copyright, the music that was documented in there, and also the text from other authors being quoted, because you avoid plagiarism. You publish a book and then 2 months down the line, there's someone who's coming,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the age of 500,000 Rand Twitter lawsuits, you probably need to be very careful.
Absolutely, yes.
Before we get to where you are right now, talk us through a brief history of your journey in music. When did you realize that actually, looks like those fingers can actually deliver something that is of interest to people within my community, within my family, and within the country at large? How did you become?
It's church.
Sunday school.
Church is a harbor. It's a harbor of most musicians. All the greatest singer in the world you can come from.
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, they started from church, from the Coltrane, the Thelonious Monk, the Luther Vandross, the Whitney Houston. You name them, all
Dionne
of them.
Warwick.
All of them, man, they're from church. So, because church is where you get the platform to perform and without being scrutinized. And the congregation, they will clap hands for you and say, yes, batubimba enkosini, bakutaza.
So they were more polite.
Yeah. And then that's where you get exposed to music, to see instruments, live instruments, and, being in a choir. So I was baptized with music from the young age because my neighbor used to play the guitar every special holidays like Good Fridays and December, Christmas, and then from there that guitar he will just hang it on the wall. It will never be played again. So I was like, why is not playing the guitar? And then my neighbor used to run a Stockfell, so now then I will hear the great repertoire of great musicians playing. So church and the surroundings, I was at the right time. I grew up at the right time, at the right place.
And obviously, even within the church a setup, there are people, there's the choir where everybody says, I've just got a very good voice. I'm the soprano, I'm the alto, or I'm the tenor. Then there's usually someone who plays either the organ or the piano. I still actually want to know what the difference is between the organ and the piano, but we're going to get them. Then there might be someone doing the drums. And I think what we've seen in the more modern church setups, it's probably just a full orchestra setup in some of the wealthier churches. When you were growing up, the question of resources, was it simply in the church we only had one instrument, so therefore that's how I gravitated towards that instrument? Or were you exposed to a wide range and then said, that's who I am?
My neighbor is not the guy used to stay a block away. His name is Jimmy Seven. that man, he's a meanest guitar player, and they had instruments, and then those instruments sometimes they will be playing at church. So I had a privilege of learning from instruments that I was privileged to learn from the decent instruments. There was like the whole full instrumentations from all the guitars, the bass, the drums, the keyboard, so everything was there. So now every time I go to church, I will hear this melodies, and this melody keeps on ringing on my head every time, and I couldn't wait to go to church so that I can hear that live guitar. And this live guitar was played by amazing guitar players of that time. I mean, the Guitsr, the Khaya. I mean, those people are truly legends, but they are unsung heroes.
And as you were growing up, obviously, there's always this tension where people say, unfortunately, in South Africa, being creative is probably not the most profitable thing, with the exception of 2 or 3 people who've done very well. So I imagine at some point in time when you then said, I want to follow this career, everybody in the house said, where's the BCom degree first, sir?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yeah, well, that is a cliche, it happens all the time in the black, society. It's because, you see, because I loved politics, I loved history, and when they said to me that you're not gonna study music, I said, okay, what is it that I really truly love? And I enrolled for political science. So, until today, I still love history. I'm passionate about history. That's why I have passion of, bringing the South African history into the current, because I'm passionate about that. So, that happened, and I said, let me study history. I mean, political science. I failed intentionally because, at school, there were other musicians, and we're like, no, let's start a band. And then I joined a band in Pretoria, the G7, and then we did a tour. And then, we were playing at the local restaurants there, playing jazz each and every Friday. So my studies, they were left behind. And then I failed intentionally so that I can go back and do it. I said, Kate, if the arrangement was that if you let me to do what I want, then I will pass. So that's when I switched things up.
Which institution did you go to?
Well, I went to 2 institutions. I went to Pretoria Tech, and then I went to Central Johannesburg College. The reason I went to Central Johannesburg College is because there was a black teacher. I wanted to be taught by a black teacher. So unfortunately, I couldn't find one at the other institutions.
So I think the reason I wanted to ask that is that obviously the way things are, there are some institutions that have got a very good pedigree in the arts. So there may be a traditional university, but there is maybe a well-known culture of people hanging around during break time, engaging in music, and that becomes sort of the cultural corner of that institution. I was lucky enough that I went to a university where such a thing happened. The University of Natal at Howard College. There was the humanities side of the university where we'd go and hang out. There was a theatre next to it, the Elizabeth Snedden Theatre. So for a lot of us, we'd just go and engage. Obviously, that's when you discover that you actually have zero talent, when you see other people doing a much better job. So yeah. When you were at the institution, obviously the question of then really reconciling the fact that you were never going to be a political scientist because your interest lay elsewhere. You were never going to be a history teacher before your interest lay elsewhere. How do you then go back home and say, yeah, actually, guys, I've decided to take this gamble?
Because of the marks. So I failed. I did, what is it? I failed with, is it a condone? When you have like 45%.
Yeah, and then they're like,
and then you qualify. Yeah, and then you qualify for supplementary.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, okay, let me do this supplementary exams but please guys, can I study what I want? But it didn't go down well because I boycotted going back to school. I said, I'm not going back to school. And then my older brother said to me, okay, I'll pay because my mother said to me, I'm not paying the damn fees. So now my older brother said to me, it's fine. I will buy you a guitar and I will, take care of the financial part of the education. And I'm here because of my older brother, because he's the one who believed in me more than my mother.
The question of resources is always an important one. And I remember a few years ago, my nephew, he comes home and then he says he wants to study film.
Yes.
Now, we all looked at him, we're like, why? What's wrong with the BCom? What's wrong with studying, everything else that the rest of us have studied? And he's like, no, I want to study this. And then I was then given the responsibility of finding a school for him. And I had been through a university, I'd done the traditional BCom thing, so I sort of had an idea of what university fees were. So I remember coming back home saying, I've got an institution, it's called AFDA.
Yes.
And then I showed them the fee statement. And I was comfortable that this man was never going to go there, because I was like, there's no way anyone is going to pay someone to say, I'm going to go and study the arts and pay that amount of money. The arts are remarkably expensive to study in South Africa.
And they're not easy. People there, there are many people. We found that in a class, we were like about 50. By the time it's Good Friday, we are 30. By the time we come back for June, we are 12. Yeah. Because people, they fail. You fail in a music class. You fail dismally. There's a subject that was, there's a course that we did, it's called melodic dictation, like oral perception. There, the lecturer gets in the class and then plays the piano. You need to write what he's playing down on a score, on a sheet. On a sheet, I'm telling you, it gets 0. I got 0, I cried. you fail, and then this other girl says, you know what, I can sing, I'm better than this do re mi fa sol la ti do. Actually, I quit. Many they come there with attitude that it's going to be easy, because it's not about playing the instrument. You learn music business, you learn history, you learn, ensemble work. There's just so many things that you learn there. Arranging, there's just so much, you get trained to the level whereby when you're listening to a song, you just analyze it, because you need to know how many instruments are playing there and everything. You need to write them down. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy task, that thing to do. It's a serious training. That is why people, they fail.
So when your brother was able to marshal together resources, which institution did you then opt for?
I did Central Johannesburg College, so that's when I found, some greatest teacher. I was privileged to have teachers, because already I was playing, because I started playing guitar in 1997. So now already I was playing, and when I arrived at school, things, they were not, I was not starting from the beginning, and I think on my second year, my lecturer was like, brah, don't you want to do other course, because the syllabus, we don't know what to give you anymore, so I was kind of a student. I was top achiever at school, I traveled, I represented the school, I did a cultural exchange program, I was that kind of a student. And also I was doing gigs and performing with my lecturers, so yeah.
Yeah, the benefits of following your passion. Eh?
Yeah.
0861 987 000. If you'd like to join us in this conversation, we are chilling in studio with Billy Monama. He's a guitarist, and next week he'll be doing something quite important that he's about to tell us about, but we'll take a short break and then come back and talk about the plans for next week.
Tweet Khaya at Karuska Khaya and hashtag Power Perspective.
Welcome back. It is the Thursday evening edition of Power Perspective. We are hanging out tonight with Billy Monama, a guitarist. There's something that he's doing next week, but before we get there, Billy, this idea of studying music, for some people it sounds a bit foreign, because they're like, well, it's either you've got the talent or not. Why do you have to go and get someone else to tell you? But as you outlined, there's much more than just your own talents. There's a need to understand the background and the business model of music, which a lot of people struggle with. We know that. But also there's an interesting thing about formal structures, formal institutions where people can go and study music, in that when you say you want to study the piano, for example, my first question is, who exactly were you studying? Were you studying some Polish man called Chopin? Were you studying me? Were you studying someone that sounded like you? Talk us about the curriculum.
Yes. This thing, umlando wakhona phuma kude kabi. It started, when I was reading and I was growing up as a musician, because attending, being at Central Johannesburg College, I was not only, there, but I interacted with many institutions, and I've attended so many workshops. And I realized that there's a gap, in African content, and this thing, it was caused by Verwoerd, by introducing what is called black
education.
Yeah, Bantu education. That Bantu education, it was a mess for us, because now it was designed to make black people to feel inferior and to believe that white people, they are superior than them. So now the curriculum of then, it never changed. Everything changed, but not the curriculum. So now, to change the curriculum, it doesn't take one day or a year. But I'm glad that today there are people who are woke enough, who are doing researching, researching work, and other authors, who write about African content as a whole. So now, at school, the curriculum, it is European and American. It's American jazz and and European. So you do like the Bach, the Beethoven, and then you do the Charlie Parker and the Coltrane syllabus, the whole movement from the blues, bebop. Yeah, for sure. And then South African content is it's like South African content is like 5%, and it is done by a simple thing, because the teachers themselves, they don't know how to play the music. They lack dimensions, and training, because they were taught what European music. So they are continuing to teach what they've been taught. That is like perpetuation. So now the next generation becomes teachers, and then they continue to teach the same curriculum. So now we thought of doing something about the memory, of our people, of the black people. So we tried to document as much as we can, because there was so much that was lost through the memory. So many things they were not captured. If you look at the content, like European content and American content, it is well documented. You don't miss anything. If you go on a computer, you look for something, it's easy access. But now, here in South Africa, first thing, when you Google a name, it happens that the name, it was written wrong. Sure.
And when you start there, I suppose it's just a slippery slope going downhill. One of the points, I suppose, has always been, is it simply a matter of the vacuum in documentation or doing the archives, which explains why a lecturer with the best intentions would say, I'd really love to teach you this, but no literature exists, no books exist, so let me default to what exists as the literature?
Exactly. That is why that is why I wrote the tutorial book. You see, that is why I'm publishing the tutorial book, because you are absolutely 100% right. Because there's no tutorial book, there's no educational books that they speak in depth about South African music. You are absolutely right about that. So now we need, it's not my job only. Many scholars, many people, they're supposed to come on board, and we do this, or else it's gonna just be the same over and over again.
When you then decided to write the book, I assume one of the big points was obviously just to deal with that particular vacuum. But I imagine that the world of music and the world of the arts is so vast and so wide. Did you then say, let me put together some documentation in relation to what I know best, or did you...
Yes. It has to do with research. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, like for example, Maskanda music. I had to go to KwaZulu Natal and spend some time with those people. And I think I must say that actually that I was privileged that I grew up working with older musicians. So now older musicians, they told me their stories. Like they told me the stories from the Jonas Gwangwa to Hostix Mabuse, Mam Abigail. I worked with all those legends, and the stories they shared with me, they are not even in the book. So now I want to translate all these things. And growing up, I grew up playing umpaqanga. And when I play the... I'm telling you, man, those guys, I grew up listening to them. And then I met so much great people who used to own record companies, people who were archivists. So I did lots of research to get to the point of the book. It was not easy because now you must understand, I'm starting from 1930s to 1980. Imagine when interviewing someone who can remember what happened last week. What about someone asking someone?
The strange irony, I suppose, and it's a historical one, is that in as much as we've done a very poor job of formally documenting things, we've got a very good track record in passing down oral history from generation to generation, because let's face it, the amount of wisdom that exists within the black community, within African society, is much greater than the volume of books that have been written about it, which simply means that it could only been done through the actual passing down of information from one generation to the next. Did you then find it easy to then try and get all those ideas and stories trapped in many people's hearts and souls, and then say, let me actually put it together in a book?
Yes, it was not easy. Khaya, my brother, it was not easy, man. It was not easy. It was not easy because when I talk about, there was a guitar player by the name of Enoch Tabete. Enoch Tabete, they wrote him as T-A, and then this is TH. So now when you look on Google, you don't find anything. And then I must go to the archivist who used to work before, because Gallo Records, it was established in 1934. So now that record label, it has the whole content archive, So I was so fortunate actually to have spoken to people who were in the industry during that time, So they shared the information without a fee, for free, because they know how much important this book it is, for South Africa, and also for the globe.
I feel like attacking you for not having the book ready, so we have to wait until September for it to be seen. We've got a caller for you, 0861 987 000. If you'd like to chat to Billy, you've got an opportunity to do so, like Pumudzo from Pretoria West. Good evening, Pumudzo.
Hi, how are you, Khaya?
All good, brother. How are you?
I'm very blessed.
Yebo.
Can I speak to her?
Yes, you can talk. You can talk.
Hi, Unjanwa.
Kiteng intathi ngiyaphila.
Oh, I thought you were Zulu. Okay.
He's very versatile.
Yes, I understand. I just want to appreciate the work that you're doing. It's very good, because if you can look at the generation that we are living on, anything that is traditional to them is very down. For them to appreciate things, they have to come from the Western side. If what you're doing was being done by somebody in America, believe me, by now, everyone around South Africa would have known that there's a book that is coming, and they would be anticipating or waiting for that book. But anyway, I like what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Keep on doing that. I wish we can have more people like you who can go down in archives just to dig out things that will remind us of who we are.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was Pumudzo from Pretoria West. Also on Twitter, Cynthia Sithole says, so good to hear from Billy. He's done very well. And Nogtula Vezi says, Billy's an amazing talent and a great storyteller. Speaking of Billy's talents, you can play one ballad. Tell us about that song.
This song, it was composed by one of unsung hero, Baba Mokoena. He was from KwaZulu-Natal. It titled this song Siphelele. Yeah, so it's a great ballad for me that I really appreciate. That I think that it could receive some acknowledgements, because we don't want to play this song. No, man. It so much has been done with Midlands, and it's time to bring some repertoire, to introduce the repertoire to the public, because we have done Hamba Nonsokolo, all those. All these songs, they're like a South African songbook, but there's just so much of it. Yeah.
Who would you say are your local influences?
My local influences, there are so many of them. If I will list them, a bucket of them, but Themba Mokoena is a very amazing guitar player. And, I have people who influence me from the business side, people who are disciplined, Sipho, Sticks Mabuse. And, the Selilo Slaughter, the Alan Kwela, who are no more. And a couple of many Khaya Mahlangu, because I listen to different music, from the saxophones, guitar, vocal, so yeah, Siphogazi, she's my favorite singer in the country.
Yeah, she's quite good. So I keep trying to check some of the tweets from your fans, and I see you've got quite a bit of a strong fan base, but we'll get to that. Next week is quite an important one. You have a program lined up at the Joburg Theatre. Talk us through that.
It is something that it has never been done before, I must say. And when I started, it was in 2016. And it was like I was not doing anything. I did a national tour. I went to all the varsities, from the Howard to Cape Town, everywhere. The students all the time, they've been saying to me, Billy, when are you coming back? And I said, no, I will bring you back. So now I'm doing a 5-day workshop. Everyone is going to gather all the information, all the questions, all the answers. They will be answered there. And it's for me, it's a success, because students, they like 1 hour is not enough when I go to visit them at their institutions. So a 5-day, by the 5th day, the students will be performing on the 12th. So the workshop starts on the 8th to the 12th at Joburg Theatre. It is in partnership with City of Johannesburg, because without them believing in this art form, it couldn't have been happening.
So when you started putting together these workshops, was this you just trying to put together some young people who may have had an interest in music to sort of give them a more holistic perspective? Because I imagine everybody thinks they know, but once you actually sit in a room and you hear about the entire spectrum, you discover so many things that you didn't know about the structures.
Yes, well, this workshop, it was because like I've said, when I was at school, when I was young, I attended workshops, and the workshops, they were covering the repertoire and the curriculum of American music, and I'm like, but where is South Africa? I'm a South African. I wanna hear something like. I wanna hear this. I wanna hear. I want to hear the Max Mankwani. I want to hear all these greatest musicians who are not celebrated. And we keep on celebrating people who, and one thing that hurts me, inspires me, is that it hurts me at the same time, because every time there is a South African content that is being documented, it's being documented by the people who are not in South Africa. Our black stories, they cannot be always being told by the outsiders. So we need to cut that, because we do have brains, you know what I'm saying? We need to just develop that consciousness. So now the students, they need to know about this. Every day I receive messages from my social media, my website, people, they wanna learn about about this, but this content is not available. The teachers themselves, they don't know how to play this. So the teachers, they're also invited to the workshop to learn, because I'll be having facilitators. Mbuzeni Mkize, he will be facilitating Maskanda. And then I have Maroya Chauke, he will be facilitating Chitsonga guitar. And then there will be Temba Mukwena, he will be dealing with Mpakanga and African jazz. And we have Hostix Mabuse coming on Thursday. He'll be talking solely about music business. And then on the 12th, all the facilitators, let me say, the attendees, they will be performing on stage. And then that performance, it will have been open for audience.
It sounds like it's a fusion of history with business, with entertainment, and literally just imparting knowledge upon young people. How long did it take you to put together just a blueprint of how these workshops ought to be run?
This workshop is actually based on my book that is coming up. So it's easy for me to just, because I've done all those things, I've covered in the book. There's Mpakanga, there's Maskanda, there's all sort of style of music. In Pakanga only, people must understand there are sub-styles. In Maskanda, there's about 11 sub-styles. It's not just about, playing ihlabo. No, there's just so much, dimensions into each sub-style. So now I will be unpacking each and everything for 5 days. I think if you come for 3 days, you will be fine by the by the 5th day, because usually when I get to their institutions, you find 1 hour they can consume. Imagine I have a history of knowledge from the as far as 1800. How am I going to unpack that in 1 hour? I'm going to take them from 1800 when the guitars they arrived in South Africa, first thing. So you can imagine. So 5 days is going to be a 5-day special.
I got another tweet for you. It says, Khaya, that guy is from my hood in Mokopane. We grew up together and I respected him then with music. Now my hat is off for him. Much more respect. Though proud of you. Lovely sound, boy. Do you have an idea what that might be before I tell you?
Jesus Christ.
It's Semti Zindos. Don't know if you know him personally.
Semti Zindos.
Yeah. Well, remember, on Twitter, people take on new personalities. So it could be your brother, it could be your uncle, but I can only read on the basis of the Twitter name that they've decided to provide to us. When you say that they can come next week and participate in the workshop, who would you say are the target audience? Who are the people that generally do come to the workshops?
Thank you so much. The target audience, the researchers, the students, the educators, the authors, and everyone who wants to understand the background of this art form. Why I'm saying is because the researchers themselves, they want to know what contain this, in this music, and what makes this music. And I have information that it was never published before, because I wrote the biographies from scratch of the personnels. I interviewed musicians who told me stories that, I remember when I was doing the research and I called this lady. It was quite an emotional interview, because we had a telephonic interview and she was quite emotional, telling the life of her husband that she lost on a tour. So I got so much stories coming. I got so much things to share with the students. The students, I've invited them. Let me say, it's when I invite them privately.
I'm a DM. I hope it's not illicit DMs.
No, I invited them internally. I've spoken to their deans, because I've worked with them. They bringing their students, and now it will be open for public. But they need to book. Please, South Africans, let's book, because now if you don't book, then it makes us difficult, because I'm gonna be catering for a number that is there, because I'm going to offer refreshments. So when we talk about free education, is what I'm doing next week. There will be free education.
Is it decolonized?
Free. Yes, it's decolonized.
That's important.
Yes, it's decolonized. It's free. You don't pay anything. It's for free. You just bring yourself, and then I will serve you lunch at 12 o'clock. So it's going to be great, because I think people, it's a very great thing that people, they must arrive there at 9 o'clock, so that for the COVID registration, I mean, and also testing and all that thing, it can be a tedious process, so that we can start at 10 o'clock exactly. But again, I must mention that something. The schools, the students, so many students are writing to me until this day. Like, I sleep trying to respond to everyone, but it's not practical. The students, there's a problem with the schools in South Africa. I'm gonna say it today, and I've been saying it to them. They are depriving the institutions. Most of the institutions, they are depriving the students this opportunity. How am I saying this? Is because when I send an email, I send the email to a certain institution. I say, PowerFM, you are invited to attend the workshop, and then the students, they never receive that information.
People become gatekeepers to knowledge, which is quite ridiculous, isn't it? Have another tweet from you. Tibo_Black says, love for the great Billy Monama. Billy, you mentioned that even next week you'll obviously have to observe COVID protocols.
Yes.
And I suspect that over the past year, a lot of people in your space, a lot of people in your sector, in the creative industry sector, have been living through hell, haven't you?
Yes.
How have you coped?
I coped because I was, I have to say it myself, I think a year ahead. I think 7 months ahead. I think I'm a visionary. When COVID hit me, already I had sponsorship. Then I did a project, tutorial videos. So now these tutorial videos, that's how I survived, because people, they subscribe everywhere in the world. I'm talking Europe, everywhere. I produced that, and I got a fund from, National Arts Council. It was approved in 2019. So now the work started in 2020, when people, they were social distancing. I was editing videos. I was, doing so that's how I survived, and 2 years ago, I scored the music. I did film scoring. I did library music with a partner of mine, Andy Ines. So now I had some royalties coming in from 2 years ago. This thing it needs patience, because now I knew that one day I'm not going to be on stage. So I survived by thinking ahead. Right now I'm thinking about December. I have looking for sponsorships. So I secured about 6 sponsorships already within 5 months, because I'm thinking December now. I'm thinking 2021. So it hit me, and we've been great that we had a support from a Pro-Aviation fund. The Switzerland embassy has given us a relief fund than the Department of Arts and Culture in South Africa. The Switzerland, we are every month, all the jazz musicians are receiving money from the Switzerland embassy.
The formal training that you had, which obviously took you not just through the creative side, but also the business side, is this something that you now reflect on over the past 12 months and say, actually, that may have been just one of the things that distinguished you from so many other artists that we speak to that say it's been a remarkably bleak year?
Yes, absolutely. The business, I was in so many bands, and many people, they stopped working with me, and I'm like, what is it that I need to do something that no one is doing, so that I can get my niche, because if I just do everyone is doing, there won't be any difference, because I need to find myself in a business. I create my own niche that no one is coming to compete with me in this business. And studying history has taught me that people, it taught me about the previous musicians who had the uprising and the downfalls of their career. People who died like paupers. I had to think about it, that I don't want to die like that. And then working with people who were sitting in boards, influential people like Hostix Mabuse. Every time we speak about business, how to take in charge of your music, copyright. You learn those things, and then you must understand there's a street smart, and there's a book smart. So now, if you have the two, you have a powerful tool.
That's quite important. We'll take a short break, read some tweets, and listen to some more music from Billy Monama.
Tweet Khaya at Karuska Khaya and hashtag Power Perspective.
Welcome back to the Thursday evening edition of Power Perspective. We have Billy Monama about to play us another ballad. Which song is that?
This was I just did some medley of Alan Kwela. I started with Sunday Blue, and then just followed by Love Turnaround.
Your sources of inspiration. Some people may say that I'm the person that when I'm driving on the highway, the speed so fast, felt like I was drowning. I get inspired and then I compose a song. What become your creative, shoots?
Different things. Politics, for me, politics.
That's an unusual way to inspire people, because I don't think a lot of people will say there's a lot inspirational about our politics in particular.
I have a song that I wrote for the forthcoming album. I titled it Elusive Freedom.
Can we get a snippet?
No.
Wow.
It's not ready.
If you're not going to tell us.
It's not ready. I want to talk about it then, because right now it's not ready. I'm still in pre-production about it. So now the things that they happen socio-politically, they really affect me. I wrote a song called Soweto Highway, because I was walking. My other life I spent in Deep Kloof, Soweto, and I was staying there. I was not far from Soweto Highway, and the things that were happening on that highway, it was a disaster back in the day. You catch a taxi there, and then, man, if I tell the stories about that highway, is a long story, but. And then I have a song, Beyond Color, that I got to compose it while I was traveling, because I was hearing different sounds, African rhythms, and I featured a Ghanaian singer by the name of Agadobo Ago. I call him Ago, and he's from Ghana. And when I was in Mozambique, I lived there for, I stayed there for like about 3 months doing a cultural exchange program. And there, the rhythms and everything are just influenced by, like hearing all this thing. So we are I just hear all these rhythms coming out of them, and then when a song comes, when it visits you 3 times, then it's a song. This melody keeps on haunting you. Then you put all the emotions together, and then it becomes a song.
It's a beautiful way to be inspired, because I think obviously if you're going to keep the creativity flowing, you probably want as many diverse interests, as many diverse things that keep you sort of alert as possible. I mean, I'd like to keep you on for a bit longer. We're going to go to Power News shortly, but I think when we come back, I sort of want to deal with the question of whether your book, the upcoming book, is essentially a move towards more literature becoming available, or do you still see that you are probably an exception in the one that said, I've looked into the system, I've looked into the curriculum, I'm uncomfortable with what I've seen, let me document it? Because if it's just one book and there's still so many stories to be told, I don't think we would have dealt with the key issue of how do we get to tell more of our stories, how do we get to enable many more students that go into CJC in the future to then be able to say, I'm learning about myself, I'm learning about the music that resonates with me. I'd like to delve on that, but right now it's time for Power News. Beyond Color is the name of the song by Billy Monama. Billy, when did you release this one?
2017.
What inspired it?
It was, xenophobic attacks that they were happening in South Africa. You see, that is why I'm telling you that socio-political things, they do inspire me. So the xenophobic attacks, when they were happening, I got an opportunity to direct the music for a dance theater of Gregory Manqoma.
Yeah.
Okay, then I met this guy who's singing here, Ago. And he had a special voice. I'm like, my goodness, I've never heard this before. And then during that time, it was a collaboration of different, artists across Africa, Senegal, Zimbabwe, Lesotho. So through that, I was left with this vibration of African rhythms on my mind.
The role of music in actually speaking out against various forms of injustices. In other words, the politicization of music is a story as old as any in Africa. I mean, is this something that you proactively and consciously engage in?
Yes. Because I have a problem with the word Africa Day. Hey, Africa Day for me is like Halloween. I treat it, people, they treat it like Halloween, and such events like Heritage Day, people, they treat it like Halloween. Have you ever seen Africa Day? Everyone dressed in African, and then the following day, what?
Even on the same evening, they're already regressing back to who they were.
Yeah. So for me, it's a state of mind being an African, because now when those people, they were in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, they had a conference, about decolonization, but the decolonization happened, but now it did not happen, financially. For us, what is freedom for me if, I'm still struggling, as a black man?
It's a tricky one, and I think a lot of us are still trying to get our head around about what it all means, particularly because it does now feel like we just stumble from one calendar date to another.
Yes.
So no one says that this year it's worth celebrating because of X, Y, and Z. Everyone says, well, the calendar says so.
Yeah. That is why I call it a Halloween. People, they call it, they treat it like Halloween, so it's like June 16. You will see everyone will be wearing their school uniform. But at that time. But anyway, so for them, for me, what was meaningful about this workshop is that it's happening. I chose to make it on Youth Month, so that I can make it for free for young people as well. Those who are not privileged to go to school, they can come and learn for free education in sponsorship with City of Johannesburg.
We have another couple of comments on Twitter for you. One is from KB, who says, that's a beautiful soul right there, Billy Monama. And the last one is from Johnny J.M. Subutuma, who says, God-given talent mixed with creativity. I'm impressed by Billy Monama. If we can have 100 billions of Billies, without any doubt, this country will head in the right direction.
Wow.
Yeah. You see,
Thank you.
We've got a big fan base. The last point that I want to canvass with you is obviously next week somebody may be hearing about this for the very first time, that there's a workshop happening for the next 5 days. How do people then get on boarded? What are the fees associated with participation, if any?
Yes. No, the workshop is for free, but it has to be there has to be booking, but abantu abamnyama ngabazi, I know my people, they don't like this tedious process of going booking online. I'm expecting someone to walk in there. I'm like, hey, I came to the workshop, can we please register online, and then so that we can calculate the numbers, because we are working against the third wave, so it's very important for us to capture the numbers that are coming through, yes.
And where do people book?
They book on Joburg Theatre website, www.joburgtheatre.com, and then they will see every detail there, and also if they don't mind, they can follow me on social media, because I am quite active, promoting this every day. So my activations are there, on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. My name is Billy Monama, and my website, www.billymonama.co.za. The information is there if they want to know when the workshops are happening. Yeah.
One farewell message from Matsibane in Limpopo. Good evening, Matsibane.
Hey, how's it?
All good, brother.
Good, thanks, man. Bidi lige.
Tobel.
Mushat. Imazuban muma kholere.
The Zukas.
Warring fell.
No, rally.
Our one. But you still owe me one thing, man.
Yes,
A track called Makholere.
Woo! That one is gonna be featured on the next project that I'm working with. It's gonna be released in somewhere around August. So you will have Makholering.
Thank you. Mushad.
All right, thank you. That is indeed Matsibane from Limpopo. And Billy, on that note, it's been wonderful having you here. September, we definitely will drag you back here, because when the book is finally published, we'd like to actually get some insights and read up about it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was Billy Monama, a guitarist and a man who's committed to letting us know more about South African music in particular.
You've been listening to a Power 98.7 podcast. For more podcasts, visit power987.co.za or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.